Good morning, and I'm Councillor Frances Nunziata, and I would like to welcome the speakers here today, Honourable Ahmed Hussen and Mayor Olivia Chow, media guests, and thanks Elliot Strachan for the use of this location. And I just want to mention in 2018, when we had the flooding, this building was completely flooded, and there were two gentlemen that were in the elevator at the time, and we have one of the gentlemen here that we had to call emergency services to rescue them from the elevator. So thank you for being here. I would now like to read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I would like to invite the Honourable Ahmed Hussen, Minister of the International Development and Member of Parliament for York South Weston, to deliver remarks on behalf of the Government of Canada.
Thank you. You don't need that. Yes. Thank you so much, Councillor Nunziata, for that kind introduction. And I want to welcome Mayor Olivia Chow to our riding. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to York South Weston. I'm here to really talk about infrastructure. Why is infrastructure important? As you've heard about the flooding that has affected this community for so many years, this has been the #1 priority, literally, for myself and Councillor Nunziata. We've been talking about this and how to get our respective governments to really invest in helping the people of York South Weston deal with this flooding. We worked together on the previous project to deal with the flooding here, and now it's time for this announcement to deal with the second phase of the project. We know that infrastructure is really the foundation for healthy and prosperous communities. Why? Because it connects Canadians. To enable them to go to work, to enable them to go to school, to enable them to be able to live and prosper and raise families. Modern sustainable infrastructure really reduces harmful emissions and increases productivity. It supports supply chains and propels our country to be a global leader in clean technology. That is why our government has made a priority of investing in infrastructure. The Government of Canada has, over the years, made sure that these infrastructure investments make a real and tangible difference in the lives of our people and in our communities from coast to coast to coast. Disaster mitigation projects help protect Canadians from the damage of flooding, storms, and other natural disasters. We know that climate mitigation is now needed more than ever before. We realize that investing in climate mitigation measures and projects actually saves money down the road, because if you don't do that, you'll pay more later when the disaster strikes. So I'm really happy today to be here on behalf of the Honourable Sean Fraser, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, to announce that the Government of Canada is investing almost $130 million under the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund to reduce the current and future impacts of climate change, including flooding in the Rockcliffe-Smythe area of York South Weston. Flooding in urban areas is very costly and it's a worsening problem as we see the adverse and negative impacts of climate change. Just this past summer, you saw flash flooding in Toronto and other parts of southern Ontario, and this caused an estimated $940 million in damage to our communities. This disaster shares a glimpse of how costly and disruptive flooding because of climate change can cause to our communities and to our families. So it reminds us once again the importance of investing in resiliency and mitigation measures to take into account the reality of extreme weather patterns and flooding associated with climate change. À Toronto, la zone de Rockcliffe-Smythe est une communauté vulnérable aux inondations avec des centaines de foyers exposés à un risque élevé d'inondation lors de fréquentes tempêtes. In Toronto, the Rockcliffe-Smythe area is a flood-vulnerable community. We've seen the impact of flooding here, with hundreds of households at high risk of flooding during frequent storm events. To address this, the City of Toronto, the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, or TRCA, are implementing flood mitigation measures to protect the most susceptible residents in this area who are susceptible to flooding, and businesses as well, because they're also impacted by flooding. This project involves upgrading multiple bridges and improving the ability of the Black Creek and Lavender Creek to carry more water away from the residents and homes. This will minimize flood risk in this Rockcliffe-Smythe area, benefiting thousands of residents and business people. Work will increase the width and depth of Black Creek between Jane Street and Alliance Avenue, where we are, and Lavender Creek between Symes Road and Black Creek. Enhancements on bridges crossing the creeks on Jane Street, Rockcliffe Boulevard, Symes Road, and Scarlett Road will also be completed. Today's announcement provides a substantial investment to ensure that households in our community are protected from flooding and that local businesses can rest assured that their governments have their back. We want these businesses to flourish, and we want these residents to not live with the continuous threat of flooding in their homes. Our partnership with the City of Toronto and TRCA is part of our commitment to growing smart, inclusive and safe communities. And the way you do that is you listen and partner with local governments, with local communities. They're the ones who are on the front lines of climate change and dealing with the impacts of climate change, such as flooding. It is an example of how we can collaborate together to ensure that residents are better protected from the impacts of climate change for many years to come. And I can tell you, through Canada's first ever national adaptation strategy, building resilient communities and a strong economy, our government is investing $1.6 billion in new federal funding to address both the immediate and future risks that are associated with climate change in Canada. Les nouveaux financements permettront d'améliorer la santé et le bien-être des Canadiens, de construire et d'entretenir des infrastructures publiques résistantes et d'aider les communautés à accroître leur résilience face aux effets du changement climatique. We are tying infrastructure investments to concrete solutions produced by the local governments and communities. We're making sure that communities are safe, inclusive and sustainable, and they become climate resilient. That's what this investment is about. And therefore, through that, we can make sure that our communities are livable, they're inclusive, and they protect our families and make sure that people are prosperous in this part of Toronto. I can tell you that from the day that I ran for office, this is a project and an initiative that I've been hearing about consistently from residents in Rockcliffe-Smythe. They've said, please do something about the flooding. And we've been working at it, myself and Councillor Nunziata, we work very closely together, Mayor Chow, to really figure out how do we get federal investments in this project to ensure that people can have peace of mind, not to have to worry about flooding every summer or every other summer, and not to even be uninsurable because of the frequency of these extreme weather events. So I'm really, really proud to be standing here before you today to announce a project that will really transform the lives of people in Rockcliffe-Smythe, and a project that I was so diligent in working hard for, because this is something that I heard from them consistently saying, as an MP, this is your job one. So I'm glad to have delivered this. Better days ahead. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Thank you, Minister. Now I would like to invite Her Worship Mayor Olivia Chow.
Thank you. I think I'll use your... Okay, I'm taller. Good morning. I'm pleased to be here with Minister Hussen. Thank you for your investment, and Councillor Nunziata to announce this partnership that will help the residents of Rockcliffe-Smythe area. This community is one of the most flood-prone in the city. We see it, we feel it, we hear it. When we get heavy rains, like what we did in mid-July, we see it on the street here. The water fills Black Creek and Lavender Creek. Our sewage system overloads. The road floods. Cars and buses get stuck. And then people come home and see their basement completely flooded. All their treasured belongings, their beautiful photos, their furniture, kids' toys, all of it wet. And it's just terrible damages. They then have to deal with the frustrating insurance claims and out-of-pocket expenses, and some can't even get insurance, so it's really difficult. It's a nightmare. We get it, and we saw the impact of it. That storm flooded many areas in Toronto in mid-July. It was a stark reminder of the need to invest in stormwater infrastructure and mitigate the impacts of climate change. Today, announcement is an important step in that direction. This project has several phases. The work will modify the Black Creek and Lavender Creek channels to increase the capacity and help prevent them from overflowing. Making bridges and culverts bigger so they don't restrict the flow of water on these rivers. That includes Scarlett Road, Jane Street, Rockcliffe Boulevard, bridges and Smythe Road, covered bigger so they can span across the channels. Building a flood wall on the east side of Weston Road at Black Creek to further help protect nearby areas from flooding. In other words, wider rivers, streams, wider bridges, wider culverts, so water can flow and not get into your basement or on the road. This is in addition to existing plan to upgrade local sewers to prevent flooding, and building out a new trunk sewer from Downsville all the way to Keele, because there's a lot of development happening in Downsville, okay? So sewage treatment, pipes, tunnels, all those things, important. This work in this area is a long time coming, with environmental assessment and studies of how to mitigate floods dating back in 2014. And I want to thank Councillor Nunziata, Speaker Nunziata, for every day fighting for this neighborhood, for this flood protection. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard privately at council saying, we must take action. And here we are. Many years of advocacy and good work on this project, we are seeing the impact of it. The fact is, when it rains, the water needs somewhere to go. Right? We know that. That's why we need to build the stormwater infrastructure. It's also why we need to find opportunities to help homeowners create permeable surfaces where water can go into the ground rather than running off into the pavement and then overwhelming the sub pump. And then if the sub pump have no energy, no electricity, it doesn't work, and then you know what happens, right? Climate change will make flooding more frequent and challenging. We have to act now to mitigate the impact of stormwater. That means better stormwater infrastructure and more permeable surfaces. And making these adaptation investments now will have major economic-wide benefits later. Let me give you some figures to prove that. Every dollar invested in adapting and preparing for climate-related disasters can return as much as $13 to $15 in benefits. You can't get this kind of return in anywhere. So $1 spent now, $13 to $15 benefits resulting from it. When this project is complete, the tangible benefits will be clear. Less flooding, less damage to people's homes and to their lives, and less damage to our public infrastructure. And you won't get stuck in the elevators, which is important. Thank you, Minister Hussen and Councillor Nunziata, for your years of work on this project, for making this important funding announcement happen today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Chow, and thank you for making this a priority, and to the Minister. I have been advancing the Rockcliffe Riverine Flood Mitigation Project to protect the Rockcliffe-Smythe area, which is the most flood-prone part of Toronto. Frequent flooding has caused serious damage to homes, roads, power lines, and sewers, so this project is essential to keeping our communities safe. City Council approved a flood protection plan created with the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, which includes improving the Black Creek and Lavender Creek channel, replacing bridges, removing culverts, and building a new flood wall along Western Road. These are all steps designed to provide strong, long-term protection against severe storms and urban flooding. 2 years ago, I successfully passed a motion at City Council requesting approximately $148 million from the Federal Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Fund, specifically for this project, and that the city manager be directed to seek funding support from the provincial government. I lead this strategic move to leverage all levels of government support, recognizing the project's priority and its potential impact on the safety and well-being of the Rockcliffe community. Today, we are here with the federal government has pledged $148.3 million through the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund, covering 40% of the project cost with the City of Toronto covering the rest. With a total investment of $323 million, this project will greatly reduce the risk of flooding, making Rockcliffe-Smythe safer. This is a significant investment and shows how urgent and important this project is. As we move forward, I remain committed to the safety and prosperity of the residents and will continue working in partnership with all levels of successful realization of the Rockcliffe Riverine Flood Mitigation Project. And I just want to thank the Minister, and as the Minister knows, in the last couple of years, whenever I attended events with him, I would be hounding him and following him and saying, please, please, we need this money. And I wouldn't let him go. I kept pressing him. So thank you, Minister, for being here and listening to me. As you know, I'm very persistent and I don't stop. And until we get the funding, and I want to thank you for being here with the funding, and thank you to the Mayor for being here and announcing that Rockcliffe is a priority for York Southwestern and Rockcliffe residents. Now we'll open it up for the media for questions.
Who are you asking the question to? Any of us?
Well, I think we have city staff here.
Yeah. Do you want to come? I know the design starts in now and the construction starts in 2026. Come and give the details. Yeah, come on over. Yeah. Here, move this out of your way. Yeah. I mean, I could begin to talk about it. You're probably better at it. Come.
Detailed design is...
introduce yourself.
Cassidy Ritz, I'm the manager of the Major Projects Unit at the City of Toronto. Detailed design is actually already getting underway associated with the project. It's a massive infrastructure project that's going to take many, many years to do the detailed design as well as the construction. We're currently anticipating that shovels will start to get in the ground on some of the projects in 2026 and targeting completion in accordance with the DMAF funding in 2032 at this particular time. Per the DMAF agreement, correct. Sometimes infrastructure projects do get delayed, and we would work with the federal government if that were to happen.
And once the projects are complete, will there be like no more problems here? Can you say that it'll sort of guarantee no more flooding?
The project has been, so there's riverine and urban flooding that is happening in this particular area. So the riverine flooding is a 350-year storm, like a Hurricane Hazel type of event. So it's designed to be able to handle that type of storm. We can't always guarantee what Mother Nature is going to do, but all of the flood modeling is indicating that we would be able to flood protect to that level.
We recently had the Portland project that's almost done. We've got this one just getting underway. Can you tell us if there are any either efforts underway or areas that have been identified that people are experiencing problems or expecting those problems to worsen, and something like this could be expected in other places in the city?
Other neighborhoods, other areas. Do you want to talk about that? There are other neighborhoods that you're doing an environmental assessment. Yeah.
This is the Keel Street trunk.
Sorry, I'm not a stormwater. I'm not a stormwater expert. There are other studies that are currently underway. For instance, in the Scarborough City Centre, there's a study underway, and there are pockets throughout the city that are subject to flooding, and as there's development interests or other concerns associated with those, the TRCA, working in collaboration with the city, will work to deal with some of those other flooding areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to say that?
Yeah, so also there's a study being done now for Keel Street, the Keel Street trunk, on Keel Street from Steeles all the way down, because the north end of my ward gets flooded as well, so that will help those residents as well as Councillor Pasternak's ward. So that study is ongoing, and hopefully we can start that project shortly.
The city has different ravines, right?
Yeah.
So the Humber, the Lavender, the Black Creek, the Don River, there's quite a few streams.
Councillor, you talked a bit about the flooding effects on your neighborhood here, but could you just talk a little bit more about that? I know we've all reported on the flooding over the years, but what damage has it caused, and what's been the effect on residents and businesses?
Hang on a second.
When that flooding has occurred?
Well, in Rockcliffe, it's been very severe, as you know. Most of the residents in Rockcliffe, since 2013, they've had severe flooding, and a lot of residents are very frustrated, and I'm frustrated as well, because a lot of them, as the mayor mentioned, it's difficult for them to get house insurance. So we are assisting those residents, and I'm pleased to say that a couple years ago, I did move a motion at council, which was debated, but I got it passed for only Rockcliffe residents, that if they have flooding, that the city will rebate them $7,500. I know that's not a lot, but at least it's a little to help the residents in this area. I'm very frustrated on what's happening in Rockcliffe, and it's frustrating for the residents, and I'm hoping that we can start this project. It's been delayed a number of times because of the TRCA environmental assessment that was conducted. We did 2 environmental assessments, and so the good news is that the design work is completed and we will start the construction soon.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.